So you're not in a crisis, right? On paper, life is, well, it's fine. The people you love, they're okay. All the responsibilities are being handled. And yet, there's this feeling that keeps bubbling up, isn't there? It's not some loud alarm bell, but it's there, and it's persistent. Okay, so let's dive into exactly what that feeling is.
This is what we're talking about today, this quiet gap. And you know it's there, don't you? You've probably felt it for a while, but maybe you just haven't had the right words for it. It's that space, that little bit of distance between the person who's doing all the things, playing all the roles, and this other version of you that you just can't quite put your finger on anymore. So in this explainer, we're going to give it a name, and we're going to show you exactly what it looks like.
Yeah, that's the feeling. And I want to be super clear about something right from the start, what you've been feeling. It is not a personal failing. And getting that distinction is probably the most important thing we're going to talk about today.
So, okay, how does this even happen? I mean, it's not like there was one big moment, some dramatic turning point. Nobody wakes up one day and just decides to stop being a person. It happens quietly. It happens over a long, long time.
The name for this process is incremental displacement. And really, that's exactly what it is. It's just a series of small, tiny choices that seem totally reasonable at the time, that slowly push your own self further and further into the background, all to make life run a little more smoothly for everybody else.
And what's so wild about this whole thing is how logical it all seems in the moment, you know? You set a preference aside because, it's not the right time. You quietly shelve a desire because, well, someone else needs something more urgently. You soften an opinion just to keep the peace, to avoid a fight. Every single one of those steps makes perfect sense when it happens. But here's the kicker. That kind of adaptation, when you repeat it for years and years, it stops being adaptation and it becomes architecture. The roles you play become the only structure you can even see anymore. So that's the how. But what does this displacement actually feel like from the inside? Let's get into the 7 specific signs. This is what it looks and feels like when the performer starts to get lost behind the performance.
7 of them. And as we go through them, just see if any of this sounds familiar. All right, sign number 1. Your own needs go silent. I mean, think about it. If someone sat you down right now and they were being completely sincere and they asked you, what do you need? Not what your family needs, not what your job needs, but what do you, the person, need? What would you even say? For so many of us, the answer is just silence. You've become so fluent, so good at understanding everyone else's needs that your own have kind of forgotten how to speak.
Okay, then we've got sign number 2. This feeling of low-grade guilt, just for wanting something for yourself. And it can be tiny things that cost nothing, like wanting an hour alone or having a conversation that's actually about you. And that simple act of wanting is followed almost automatically by this wave of guilt. It just feels a little bit wrong, doesn't it? Like it's some kind of luxury you were supposed to have outgrown by now. Now, sign 3 is a really subtle one. You perform contentment so well that sometimes you actually convince yourself. You have good moments, real ones, where everything feels totally fine. You smile and you really mean it. But then later, when you're alone, that gap, it reappears. And listen, this isn't because the good moments were fake. It's because performing a role well, even a happy one, is just not the same thing as living a life that is genuinely, authentically yours. And the exhaustion that comes from that difference, that is a very, very particular kind of tired.
All right, sign number 4. Think for a second about your hobbies, your interests right now. How many of them grew from some genuine spark inside of you? And how many just sort of accumulated around the edges of what other people in your life needed? You know, when the kids had activities, you learned all about those. When your partnership seemed to need certain interests, you adopted them. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it can lead to the sudden realization that your entire orbit, it's been organized around other people's centers of gravity.
Next up is sign number 5, a diffuse, targetless anger. It's really important to get the difference here. We're not talking about sharp, directed anger, the kind that has a clear trigger and a specific target. No, this diffuse anger is totally different. It feels like it comes out of nowhere and it just lands on whoever happens to be closest. But that anger, it isn't a character flaw. It's your system sending you incredibly vital information. It's often just compressed grief and a whole lot of unmet needs with absolutely nowhere else to go. And sign 6, have you ever picked up a book or started a project that you used to absolutely love, only to feel, nothing?
It's not depression. It's more like the channels had just gone quiet. That's what this is. That internal frequency inside you that registers, hey, I find this genuinely interesting. It can literally atrophy from years of only focusing on what others find interesting. It's just gone quiet from disuse. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most profound sign of them all. It all comes down to that one big question. What do you want for your life? I mean, really, for yourself.
And what happens? Your answer, if you're being totally honest, comes out in the shape of your roles. I want my kids to be settled. I want my marriage to be better. I just want things to be easier for everyone. And look, these are all beautiful, valid things to want. Of course they are. But do you see it? They're all organized around someone else as the center. The woman who should be at the center of her own answer. The one who wants something for herself, period, full stop. She's been quiet for so long that there's just a silence where she should be. That silence, that's the quiet gap we were talking about at the very beginning. Okay, so if you've recognized yourself in any of these signs, please listen to this next part. This is the most important thing you need to hear. This is not about blaming yourself. Not at all. Let me say that again because it's so important. This pattern is not a character flaw. It is not laziness. It's not weakness. It's not some failure to do the work or love yourself more. This right here really gets to the core of it. You did what worked. You did what was asked of you, what was expected. These were all logical, smart adaptations to a system that, let's be honest, often isn't built to give women space for their own self to exist right alongside all of their roles. So, what now? Where do you go from here? Well, the way back doesn't start with some complicated 5-step plan. It starts much smaller. It starts with one simple foundational question. But that very question, who am I, outside of all this? It can feel really dangerous, can't it? That's because so many of us have been trained to mistake self-knowledge for selfishness. But they are absolutely not the same thing. Look, selfishness is a disregard for what other people need. Self-knowledge, that's the foundation for actually living your life, not just performing it for an audience. So here's the crucial shift you need to make in your head. Stop treating this realization as some final verdict on your life. It is not proof that you failed. Instead, try to see it for what it really is. It's information. It's a key that can unlock the path forward. And the beautiful thing is, unlike a verdict, which is final, information is something you can actually work with. It's a beginning. And remember how we got here in the first place? It was increment by increment, one tiny step at a time. Well, guess what? That's also the way back. It happens one small, quiet question at a time. It's not about asking some huge, terrifying question like, what is my life's grand purpose? It's about asking, what sounds good for dinner? To me. Or maybe just, what do I want to do for the next 10 minutes? So let's just end with this thought. The woman underneath all those roles, she isn't gone. She hasn't been replaced. She's just been quiet. She's been waiting. And the very fact that you're here listening to this right now, that's her. She's still there, and she's still asking.